I am Gunter. This is my film, Quake 2, A Love Story.
The original Quake wasn't exactly a story-driven game. It had an excuse plot rooted in Lovecraftian influences, set in what could be best described as industrial Gothic fortresses and super dungeons. The only things that mattered were staying alive and killing anything that moved. It was a perfect first-person shooter that manages to surpass id Software's previous efforts with Doom, both artistically and technologically. Quake 2 pushed the genre further with its sprawling levels, multi-step mission structure, and featured multiplayer. The multiplayer aspect in particular became a crucial pillar of Quake 2, ultimately defining arena shooting gameplay as the world knows it today. In 2021, Night Dive Studios successfully crafted a definitive remaster of Quake.
After firing the nail gun, your opponent will hear the scream of galvanized steel.
And now they're setting their sights on its sequel, and while there's still room for improvement, how has Night Dive Studios enhanced this divisive game? Was this sequel even worth remastering? Well, get your rubbers and your guns ready, boys, because you're about to find out in this Quake 2 review! Quake 2's story is seemingly completely divorced from the events of the first Quake. There are no references to the Netherworld or Operation Counter-Strike, and Shub-Niggurath and its spawn are not part of the lore at all. Quake 2 revolves around a race of cyborgs known as the Strogg. After a botched aerial insertion, the protagonist wages a one-man war against them all. Back in 1997, the idea of Space Marines hadn't even been overused the way they are today. Arcane magic was traded for cybernetic nightmarish factories, mines, and industrial installations. The Gothic ambiance gave way to a fusion of Borg and Warhammer 40k aesthetics. When Quake 2 was new, there wasn't many games like it, and there are no Gears of War, Killzone, Halo, or Mass Effect to drain the concept dry. Experiencing Quake 2 and recognizing it as one of the earliest examples of its kind is fascinating. It's clear that the copycats failed to grasp what made Quake 2 appealing in the first place, and much of it has to do with its modest story, visceral action, and emphasis on dense level design. The tension in the air is thick and hair-raising, like every shadow is about to unleash a psychotic Strogg. Armed with some devastating Byzantine firepower, gamers get to create a symphony of chaos against these mechanoid freaks. The sounds of the weapons reverberate through metal hallways, making survival feel like a frantic and manic war of attrition. The railgun is a sharpshooter's dream and a target's worst nightmare. It launches an electrified shot with accuracy like it's bending time and space just to hit its mark. Don't even get me started on the BFG 10,000. It's a beast that unfurls a ball of energy that devours everything in its path. The ground shakes, the air goes kaboom, and when the dust settles, all that's left are bewildered, ghostly echoes. The bad boys at Night Dive seized the opportunity to enhance the feel of each weapon. They've added muzzle flashes to give more realistic feedback. They've also toned down the recoil compared to the original, making accurate shots on the move much easier. And that's good for you and that killing spree you need. That's a big deal, since Quake 2 practically insists that the players keep moving non-stop. Just remember, indolence is death.
Splitting the air at tremendous velocity. When you hear him suck his last breath, it is safe to stop firing.
And that other psychopath, Sonic Mayhem, was put on music duties. While it's too bad Trent Reznor didn't have the chance to return, Quake 2's music heavily incorporates electronic synths, mechanical sounds, and rhythmic beats, all working together to build tension and urgency. The tracks frequently match the rapid action of the game, adding the rush players feel during intense combat scenes and haunting melodies that contribute to the foreboding atmosphere. Night Dive also has speeded up the weapon switching process and made it more responsive. The weapon wheel was in the first Quake remaster, and it's back now, and it's also in the inventory screen. No more slow cycle through each item one by one. Now you can slap on that rebreather or hazmat suit in a flash. If you wanted more tactical ease of use, you got it. This kind of dedication to the nitty-gritty details and effort that they've put into improving the experience makes Quake 2 step up its game so players can really appreciate its finer points. Like the fluid, aggressive, and intense sweat running down your face, hyper-violent action. The previous game featured levels that were essentially standalone stages, where players had the simple goal of reaching the end. This usually involved grabbing keys, hitting a few switches, and maybe battling with a couple of shamblers. It was the progression of Doom's gameplay. However, in Quake 2, things have become more intricate, so watching your back is gonna be more than necessary. The levels have mutatedly grown in size and flow naturally from one to another. In turn, this grabs you by the throat to really pull you in for more immersion. Gamers might even find themselves doing a bit of backtracking, giving each stage somewhat of a Metroidvania feel. Impressively, these are the entirely optional secret areas that are about the size of a Quake 1 stage. Talk about going above and beyond. Every nook and cranny and secret hole you tear into has multiple paths, hidden corridors, or mysterious corners that lead to something intriguing. There are multiple objectives, and sometimes actions that have repercussions in later areas. Quake 2 is thinking ahead and delves much deeper than most shooters that followed in its footsteps, riding on its coattails. This remaster goes way beyond the usual standards. It offers a whole range of options, a bunch of tweaks that let players shape the game to match their own preferences. The upgraded lighting gives the landscapes a stunning new radiance, and the motion blur adds a visceral bite to the action. On top of all the enhancements, all DLC campaigns are now present, and an amazing new one is now made by Machine Games to offer you more torture. In Call of the Machine, Quake 2's gameplay reaches its peak. It even outshines the base Quake 2 campaign, not just in quality, but also in the sheer amount of content and variety. The biggest surprise is that Machine Games found a way to connect Quake with its sequel in Call of the Machine. Machine Games has taken the Quake engine to its absolute limit and conjured up some of the most imaginative stages ever seen in a Quake game. This is a remaster that is comprehensive and packed to the brim with thrilling action, with nothing but improved qualities in every aspect, including the hyper-violence that you remembered and dared to experience once again. And make no mistake, Call of the Machine will keep gamers engaged, as it stands out as the ultimate highlight of this package. The remaster also includes stages from Quake 2 64. The Nintendo 64 version of Quake 2 was intriguing because it didn't actually utilize the Quake 2 engine. Instead, it uses the engine from the first Quake. Some of the art directions and stages took inspiration from Quake 2. However, the Nintendo 64 version was still constrained by the limitations of the first Quake engine, so the levels reverted to smaller maps rather than the expansive interconnected hubs. That's why in this one, it's got a real job for you. With no lube and a classic view. Now get ready, and get those guns cocked and ready to blast some monster loads. Quake 2 64 is quite short and mainly features unique levels, making it an interesting curiosity for fans or nostalgic gamers who grew up with it, like the demon spawn they are. The Reckoning doesn't manage to impress as much due to its bland and simplistic level design, and the layouts are uninspiring, and the placement of secret areas seem quite haphazard. It's to the point where it might lull you to sleep with its lack of creativity. There are some mentally dense gamers that often label Quake 2 as the weaker effort from id Software, yet they still acknowledge that it surpasses most shooters due to its prestigious heritage. As someone who only experienced the original Quake, it's surprising to see how the sequel manages to enhance almost every aspect of it. Granted, the version being reviewed is a new and improved iteration of Quake 2, but it's difficult to agree with the sentiment that it's an inferior game. Whether or not Quake 2's ties to the original are somewhat loose doesn't really matter. It might only carry the Quake name for marketing purposes, but that could also have influenced fans' expectations. At its core, Quake 2 is more aggressive, faster, and larger in scale than its predecessor. It doesn't replace the original. Instead, it confidently stands beside it. And I will be standing and waiting behind anyone who gives this game the thumbs down. You've been warned. Yeah, it's Quake 2. Yeah, Quake 2. Here we go now. Now get those guns cocked, number one. When I'm taking you down to PS5 fun, I'm gonna point it, click and shoot, and then I'm gonna kill all of you. Especially if you are a fucking demon machine man. You're gonna be screaming and you're gonna be sad when I take this missile, shove it up your ass. You better run when I'm on a boost pad, cause I'm gonna find you, whop your ass. I'm gonna split you in half with these arsenals I've had in a box, and I don't need a lot. And I got my gun cocked ready to rock, and it's got you in a crosshairs. But what you gonna do if you're only standing there and you're gonna stare? Cause I got you in shock, I got you on lock. I'm gonna pump you faster than a teenage sock. With my BFG, it's gonna turn you into slop. With nowhere to run and you can't call a cop. Well, I'm feeling alone, so I'll throw you a bone. Let's play a killing game in this nightmare zone. It could be 10 to 1, even though it's a sin. You better understand that I'm still gonna win, and I'm better still, and I'm ready to kill. It ain't leaving because I'm on it for the thrill. Win or bust, satiate my bloodlust for machine mutant baddies whom are designed to croak and rust. Not rest in peace, I'll spread my disease. A contagion of bullets for you to feast upon defeat. Yeah, evil machine people, where you at? Evil machine people, where you at? Evil machine people, where you at? Come here and get a taste of my gat. Quake 2. Fuck you. Quake 2. Fuck you. Yeah.
You lie?
I don't care if you lie!